Hello everybody, thank you for the introduction, and I'm happy to be here to have this joint presentation regarding the topic from steel scrap to high performance automotive green steel. So basically, just skipping a bit forward, this is like this short agenda we have. I would like to introduce to you not just the Volkswagen AG but also the Volkswagen Group Innovations. So basically, what is our task in the group? Then I would like to go over some internal and external drivers for circular economy, going to challenges, risks, and the chances we have or we see there, and then like showing you a way how we could implement a circular economy in our production or also in the automotive industry. So at first, probably everybody of you know that Volkswagen is mainly building cars, and we are building quite a lot of cars. So basically we are having 115 production plants worldwide, and we are building 33,500 cars a day. That means 9.24 million cars last year. And because we are having a product which is emitting CO2 not just in the use phase but also in the production phase, we are also emitting lots of CO2 as a company, and therefore we have targets where we want to reduce the CO2 footprint. So basically in the end up to a net carbon neutrality down to or up to 2050. And the group, so there's the Volkswagen AG, and in the Volkswagen AG there are lots of brands which you can see on the left-hand side. So basically we have the volume cores. This is Volkswagen, Volkswagen Nutzfahrzeuge, Skoda, Seat, Cupra. Then we have the premium brand and the sport brand Porsche. But still we also have the brands on the right-hand side, for example, the bus and truck sector. So basically Traton, Scania, MAN, Navistar, so our mobility provider Moja, but also the Volkswagen Group components, which are building parts but also assemblies for the group and for the cars. And we as a group innovation, we have the task to do research for all the brands you have seen there. So basically the brands are paying us money so that we develop and evaluate technologies in a very early stage, always with the focus to have a transfer into the brands. And so this is basically our task. So if there is an idea or there's a new material, there's a new process, when we are, for example, looking at materials, this is our task to screen, to do first proof of concepts, always together with the brands and with the companies, and then preparing this transfer, basically evaluating the mechanical properties, corrosion, availability, doing first price estimations, and then bringing it to the product. So that's why we as a Volkswagen Group Innovation, we have different ways of exchange with our brands. So there are meetings, reviews, whatever you can think of. So there's also something which we call Future Mobility Days. This is basically like a big trade show for all the brands in the group where we exhibit our projects. But when we come to collaboration models, we also, if that is the one you can see on the right-hand side, we have internal and external projects, also such projects like we have here together with Primetals and Zicon. We have public funded projects, but we also have PhDs, master theses, etc. Okay, so what are the internal and external drivers for circular economy we see right now? So basically at first maybe you have known or have heard about the Regenerate Plus strategy. So basically this is a Volkswagen Group sustainable strategy where we want to become a nature and society positive mobility provider. So what does this mean? We have such a group framework which consists of nature, people, society, and business, and these blocks are set with different KPIs which we want to reach. And when we are looking at materials, we have something like this sentence, which you can see here with the red line. So by 2040, we aim to use 40% of secondary materials or materials from recycled products or recycled materials in our product. That means overall, if you see the whole car, and if you think of, for example, the battery, you might know that we won't be able or Nowadays, the estimation is that we won't have 40% of recycled battery materials, so there are other materials which have to somehow close this gap, and therefore we are having lots of development how to increase the secondary material content for instance, metals. Okay, and so then we also have these external drivers. Probably you also know about this end-of-life vehicle directive draft, which came out in the middle of last year. And basically with the main goals that we have to design more circular, we have to use recycled content, treat the material better, but also improve the governance, collect more and smarter, and also cover more vehicles. And if you see the first sentence, so for the plastic sector, there are already some tough targets. Basically, from 2031, they claim to use 25% of recycled material in the plastic sector, and from this 25%, even 25%, so basically 6.25% from the plastics has to come out of closed loop. And if we have a look at the ID4 has 330 kilograms of plastic. So that means we need 82.5 kilograms of recycled material and 25 kilograms of closed loop. And if you have a look at the actual Golf 6, we have 170 kilograms of plastic in there. So these are the cars which are coming back right now, and somehow they have to find technologies in order to achieve this 82, or we altogether have to find solutions to have this 82 kilograms of post-consumer recyclate or this 25 kilogram of closed loop. And why am I saying this? Because they are also discussing if they want to implement such a guideline or such a regulation for metals, in this case for steel and aluminum. So then there are also some things about mandatory removal of valuable parts, for instance the electric drive train. So this is something which is in discussion, so dismantle this before shredding, and also that they want to implement such a circularity passport. So what are the challenges, chances and risks we see here? So basically our main focus today is this decarbonization of our products. So this Volkswagen Way to Zero, and now we are coming to this Way to Zero plus Regenerate Plus. So basically the one is reducing CO2 footprint, the other one is implementing more secondary material input. And so the chances we see, or basically it's also mandatory, that we have to fulfill the regulations. Otherwise, we are not able to sell the cars. Then we see the chance to reduce CO2 by introducing more scrap or more secondary material in our cars. And we also some positive benefits because of the so-called ESG rating, ecologic, social and governance rating, where we achieve more confidence for our customers, but also for our stakeholders and investors when we have a good ESG rating. Then we have this positive social reputation, and the chance could also be cost, because we may have also some fees we have to pay when we don't achieve certain limits, but cost is basically a chance and also risk, because we actually know that using more scrap won't make the product cheaper in the first place. So the question is, where does this lead? Where will we end? The other risk is something which has also been mentioned, the availability of scrap, and also the certain tramp elements we will get into our materials when we talk about higher scrap content, and therefore also the mechanical performance of the material and also the stability of the material. And the task we have as a group innovation is basically to make this accessible. So what does it mean? What does it cost? How good is the quality? And the decision is then made by the brands, and by the group strategy. So when I started in 2011 at Audi, I was working in the field of fiber reinforced plastics, and there was always this Leichtbaukennzahl, lightweight factor. So basically there was like, if you save 1 kilogram in the car, you're able to spend, for example, 15 euro more. So this was some figure or KPI where we have been this was quite a good way to evaluate our projects. But today, we not just have the weight and the cost, but we also have the CO2. And tomorrow we will have additionally the secondary material content, and that's why developing a product will getting even more complex. Also, when we have this basic requirements like all the legal things, then we have the performance of the material, the processability, and also the availability. And so basically, these questions or this task can just be solved by all of us. So basically, we need a strong joint collaboration in order to understand the process and the product and all the things which are interlinking together. And so this conference is focusing on steel, so that's why I've just brought this slide. You can see the actual material share of the ID.3, and you can see that more than half of the car is made out of metals, and nearly half of the car is made out of steel. And on the left-hand side, you can see the CO2 footprint of the ID.3, and there you see that steel has roughly 19% share. So that means steel is a very good material to have like a high-performant body in white, but also with a very low footprint. And because we have so much material or so much steel in the car, we also have a high level or a high lever. When we have an innovation in steel, we can directly bring it into the car with a high amount. Okay, so how can we implement the circular economy? There's this 9R strategy. So we at Volkswagen, we are focusing on 5 Rs. So basically, how can we make a product better? So the first thing is always and was always rethink. So basically, when you have the design process, what can you improve? How can you treat your material better? Or can you also think of other business models? For example, because I will show this on the next slide, you probably also know that lots of the cars won't end in the European Union. They will go somewhere else, and even Volkswagen doesn't know where they are. So basically, when we talk about circular economy, there's always the question, how do we get the hand back on our cars, on our materials, so that we can bring them into closed loop? And we are discussing, for instance, about lifelong leasing concepts, basically not to sell the car, but just to share it and just to always have it in our books. The second one is reduce. The best or the most sustainable material is the one we don't need. Then reuse and refurbish. So basically, when we look at the French market, for instance, there is like when you go to a car workshop as a customer and you have a crash, you can always ask for used parts so that you have a cheaper repair. So this is mandatory, and basically the idea is to reduce parts, which is already done today, but not from Volkswagen. Then remanufacture, basically making something else out of the product. So if you look at the batteries or the engines, and in the end, recycle it in this way that you can use it once again, and not just for like train rails, but again for high performance material steel for the automotive industry. And this is how it could look like. You can see the rethink process. You build the car and then you go into the loop, you produce the car, then you sell it, and somehow are able to get your material back or your car back, have this end-of-life vehicle take back, use it as a vehicle dismantling. So we are dismantling the vehicles anyway. We have to get rid of or we have to take the wheels off. We have to get the fluids out, but also later on thinking of taking off the battery, taking off the engine, and then recycle it, and then start the circle once again. And in this area, Zikon and Primetals comes into play. Thanks.
The first question, so Dr. Thomas, I think this is maybe for you. You showed the circular automotive economy cycle. I think this was maybe the last picture, the nice one. What part needs most attention in the future?
Okay, so basically, I think if we could have back our cars, so in the end, there must be a business case. So Volkswagen won't do this just because we want to be more sustainable, but also we need to earn money with all this stuff. And the question is, how do we get the cars back so that we can bring them back to the cycle? And this is something we are investigating internally, but still we need also then to change, for example, our business case, how we sell our cars today. And therefore, lots of entities in the Volkswagen Group, they need to be convinced, or their strategies have to be made and calculations have to be made in order to evaluate this one.
Okay, thanks a lot.